He shattered my heart for his mistress, so I returned to my billionaire family. He lost everything. The night he didn't come home was the night everything changed. There was something in the air that evening, something bitter and still, something hollow that echoed louder than silence ever had. The candlelight dinner I'd prepared slowly went cold, the scent of roses I'd set on the table now suffocating instead of romantic. Hours passed. Midnight came. And still no message, no call, no footsteps. Only the distant hum of city life beyond the glass windows and the soft tremble in my chest as hope quietly began to die. He came home at 3 a.m. with lipstick on his collar. The scent wasn't mine. The smirk on his face wasn't innocent. The lie he fed me was dry and heartless. He said he was busy. Said he was exhausted. Said I was imagining things. But I wasn't. My hands shook, my eyes burned, and my heart shattered in silence. I kissed him on the cheek anyway, pretending not to see the red stain. Pretending not to feel like a stranger in my own marriage. It continued for weeks. Late nights, cancelled dates, changed passwords. He had fallen into someone else's arms while I drowned in the memories of our love. Every day became a battlefield between staying and leaving, between fighting and giving up. I cried myself to sleep beside a man who no longer reached for me. I starved for his touch, hungered for his attention, ached for the version of him that used to bring me coffee in bed and kiss my forehead like it meant forever. And then the truth came crashing down like an avalanche. I followed him once. Just once. He was at a luxury hotel laughing with her. His hands tangled in her hair. His lips pressed against hers so freely, so carelessly. As if I never existed. As if our vows were paper. As if I was nothing more than a dull chapter in his thrilling new romance novel. I watched from across the street, frozen, tears streaming, breath shallow. It was a moment that broke me not just because he cheated but because he looked happy. Genuinely happy. With her. I walked away that night with a storm in my chest and silence in my soul. I didn't scream. I didn't confront him. I simply went home, packed my bags, and called the driver I hadn't spoken to in years. A driver who worked for a family I had once left behind. Because I wasn't poor. I wasn't helpless. I wasn't alone. I was born into a billionaire legacy, into wealth so deep it echoed across continents. But I had chosen love over money. I had chosen simplicity, chosen him. I gave it all up for a man who kissed another woman in a hotel suite while I waited at home with cold dinners and dying roses. I returned to my family's estate that night, the gates opening wide like arms long forgotten. My father's eyes were filled with pain, my mother's embrace soaked in tears. They had warned me once, begged me not to marry him, not to disappear. But I was blinded by love. Now I stood before them empty and destroyed and yet somehow still breathing. Healing wasn't immediate. I cried for days, screamed into pillows, tore apart the memories one by one. I deleted photos, burned letters, and cursed my own heart for still wanting him. But piece by piece I started to return to myself. I relearned who I was without him. I rediscovered my passions. I reconnected with friends, with the world, with laughter. The mirror stopped showing a broken woman and began to reflect someone fierce, someone glowing with revenge not from hate, but from resurrection. He tried to reach out, of course. First it was just messages. I miss you. It meant nothing. Let's talk. But I didn't reply. Then came the calls, the voicemails, the desperate knocking at my family's mansion gates. He hadn't realized who I truly was. He had no idea what kind of family I came from, until it was too late. His business began to suffer. See, he didn't build his empire alone. He used my silent support, my connections, my family's influence, unknowingly. Now, every handshake he had once received vanished. Every client that once praised his name disappeared. My family made sure he tasted isolation. He lost contracts. His investors pulled out. His account was frozen due to a legal oversight, one that I could have fixed in a phone call but didn't. He was losing everything while I was reborn. And then came the charity gala. It was the first time I showed my face in public since our separation. The ballroom was drenched in gold and luxury, diamonds shimmering like stars. I walked in wearing a dress made of silence and power, not revenge. Every eye turned to me. He was there too, alone, tired, pale. When our eyes met, he froze. I smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was the smile of someone who had been to hell and returned as royalty. He approached me, whispered my name like a question. I leaned in, kissed his cheek the way I used to, and said, "She can have you." He didn't understand. Not until the media revealed the collapse of his company the next morning. Not until she left him the day after. Not until his apartment was repossessed. He had traded love for lust, loyalty for lies. And now he stood in the ruins of what he thought would be paradise. But I didn't gloat. Because the truth is, I didn't want his destruction. I just wanted my peace. And I had finally found it. Yet something strange began happening. I started receiving anonymous letters. Notes slipped under my door. Whispers in crowds. Someone was watching me. Someone who didn't want me to move on. Someone who knew secrets about my past I had never told a soul. And then I found the photo. A single printed image slipped inside a bouquet of lilies delivered to my office. It was a picture of me, taken from a distance, the day I returned to my family. On the back, a message written in blood-red ink. "You think it's over. It has just begun." My hands trembled. My heart pounded. This wasn't just heartbreak anymore. This was a warning. And it meant only one thing. The real story hadn't even started yet. The photo haunted me for days. I locked it away, but its presence lingered like a dark fog I couldn't shake off. I tried to distract myself, returned to work, buried myself in meetings, traveled across cities to avoid the feeling of being followed. But no matter where I went, I felt eyes on me, watching, waiting. Breath behind me. A shadow beside me. It wasn't paranoia. It was real. And deep down, I knew exactly where it was coming from. He wasn't done with me. After losing everything, he had disappeared for weeks. Gone without a trace. No one knew where he was living. Friends stopped mentioning him. His mistress had moved abroad, leaving him with debts, betrayal, and the sharp taste of karma. I thought he'd fade away like a bad dream. But no. He came back, and not for forgiveness, but for obsession. He began stalking me. Quietly. Cleverly. He never showed his face but made his presence felt. Broken picture frames. Scratched out photographs. Deleted files from my personal devices. Flowers with thorns placed where I'd walk barefoot. He wasn't the man I once loved anymore. He had become a ghost, a dangerous shadow feeding on vengeance. One night I heard footsteps outside my window. I was staying at my family's private estate in the countryside, a place surrounded by walls, guards, and serenity. But serenity doesn't stop madness. I grabbed the fireplace poker with shaking hands and crept toward the balcony. There was nothing. Just the wind rustling the ivy and the cold breath of midnight. But when I turned around, the photo was there. The same photo from before. Now torn, blood smeared on its edge. Beneath it a note. "If I can't have your heart, no one can." I didn't scream. I didn't panic. I hardened. I contacted private investigators, tightened security, traced every phone call, reviewed every camera. The trail led back to an abandoned warehouse in the outskirts of the city, once his private storage unit, now a lair of torment. Inside were printed images of me, all marked, stabbed, defaced. A room filled with candles and burned letters. And on the wall, in red, "You ruined me." It was no longer just a broken man. It was a man who had nothing to lose. A man who wanted to destroy me, not just emotionally but physically. But he underestimated something important. I wasn't the same woman anymore. I wasn't the girl who cried in the dark, waiting for him to come home. I wasn't the lover who forgave lipstick stains and cold lies. I was a woman forged by betrayal, awakened by pain, and protected by a family powerful enough to erase anyone from existence. So I turned the tables. I crafted a trap with the elegance only a broken heart could build. A charity event, private, elite, exclusive, was organized in the heart of the city. An event he couldn't resist. I leaked false rumors that I'd be alone, vulnerable, perhaps even willing to talk. I fed his obsession. I made him believe I still missed him. He showed up, dressed in black, hiding in the shadows, moving like a thief. But this time the cameras were watching. Security was waiting. And I wasn't alone. He was arrested just meters from me. Knife hidden in his jacket, rage in his eyes, screaming lies about love, about revenge, about how I ruined his life. I didn't flinch. I didn't blink. I just looked into his eyes, the same eyes I once fell in love with, and felt nothing. They locked him away for attempted harm, stalking, and evidence of mental instability. Trial was quick. He cried in court, said he loved me, said it was my fault. But the world saw through it. The world saw him for who he had become. I walked away free. But freedom didn't come without scars. Even after his arrest, I struggled to sleep. I would lie awake, thinking about how far love can fall, how quickly something sacred can turn toxic. I remembered the kisses we once shared, the days we laughed in bed, the promises whispered beneath stars. Love had never felt so cruel. I used to hunger for his touch. Now I hungered for peace. It took months, therapy, tears, and the quiet power of healing to finally let go. To stop checking the windows. To laugh again without looking over my shoulder. But slowly life returned. Joy returned. And so did something unexpected. Someone unexpected. He wasn't a lover, not at first. He was a friend, a stranger who became a constant presence in my work life. Soft-spoken, respectful, patient. He didn't chase me. He didn't push me. He simply stayed. And for someone who had been hunted, having someone stay without expectation felt like safety. One evening, while standing under the rain after a business meeting, he handed me a coffee, my favorite, just the way I used to drink it before I forgot how to enjoy anything. And in that small gesture, something inside me softened. He didn't ask for my past. He didn't flinch at my silence. He just stood beside me and said, "You look like someone who deserves better." I didn't fall in love immediately. It wasn't a spark. It was a slow, gentle burn. One that rebuilt trust brick by brick. And the first time he kissed me, it wasn't passionate. It was safe. It was the kind of kiss that didn't steal air but gave it back. The kind of kiss that reminded me I was still alive, still worthy of real love. And in that moment I cried. Not because of him, but because I had survived everything that tried to destroy me. Because I had returned from the ashes of betrayal, heartbreak, and pain. Because I had taken back my life, my soul, my worth. I had been cheated on, hunted, almost broken, but I had refused to disappear. I had returned not as a victim, but as a queen who reclaimed her throne. The past still whispered sometimes. In the quiet of night. In the echoes of old songs. But it no longer controlled me. No longer haunted me. And the man who tried to bury me. He was nothing but a chapter one had closed. Because this wasn't a story about him. It was never about him. It was about me. And how I loved, how I lost, how I bled, and how I rose. The end.